Settle down. 84. It is I, one of your hosts, Seed, and joined as always with me is the ever high octane Douglas Davidson. How are you doing today, good sir?
I'm fine.
Bringing the heat early on in the episode. Turn your volume down, people. I don't know if you can stand this.
Sorry, I just woke up from a nap. I wish I just woke up from a nap. No, it's been a day. It's been a day, but
It's been a
I'll
day.
warm up. I'll warm up.
All right, then it'll be full tilt lunacy by the time we get to the end of this episode. Can't wait for it. It's been approximately 2 of the weeks as we try to do these since we last graced your eardrums with a new episode of Cinnamon Man talking about movies. We're going to talk about movies. What we do, we talk about film, cinema. Uh, in that 2 weeks, is there anything major news wise, movies that's worth talking about there? That fresh?
Nothing major news wise, except that the Writers Guild has voted and they are
Striking.
preparing to strike. And the
Yeah.
only way that a strike will happen is if negotiations don't go well. And I am very pro writer
Yes, this show
because
is pro writer.
the TV shows you like, the movies you like, they have to be written by someone. The plays you like, the songs you like, they're written by someone,
The
and
choose your own adventure books that you're reading right now, they were written by somebody.
they're written by somebody. So the writers should be paid, and they should be paid appropriately. Finding out that, for example, the reason why Netflix in particular uses the weekend numbers to justify whether they renew something or not has as much to do with residual writer payments as it does anything else. And that the way that those contracts are written for streaming is very different than broadcast. And so if the weekend numbers don't hit a certain thing, the writers don't get paid X number of dollars if there isn't a second season or continuation or what have you. So even though there's all these dead series with one season and that's it, and people may be watching them daily, the writers don't get anything extra for that. Whereas a episode of The Simpsons, someone was saying they got a check for like four figures. It was like $1,000 or something on a residual for a Simpsons episode that may have ran, 5, 10, 20 years ago. Writers deserve to be paid. If someone is profiting off of their work, they deserve to be paid.
On the heels of that, remind me to tell you something when we get done with this episode.
I'm literally writing myself a note of something I need to tell you, sir. So I will see your off mic conversation and raise you one.
All right, then we will have two off mic conversations. Still remind me to tell you something because I won't remember. All right. Yeah. So yeah, good. This is a pro writer show. The 2000 writer strike fucked us and giving us some shitty programming. And boy, if they just paid their writers, they wouldn't be in the position they were in back then.
It is so weird. It's as though the ruling class needs the working class in order to fucking thrive.
Oh man, of course that writer strike gave way.
I suddenly want to watch Bunraku again.
You just want to watch
fucking proletariat take everything over.
Udo Kier just out there getting his kill on. Is that Bunraku?
Bunraku is the world has gone to shit and guns are outlawed. Everybody's got a samurai sword. Josh Hartnett is out to kill the Axeman, who is
yes,
Hellboy, Ron Perlman.
What movie did Udo Kier do? Anyways,
are you thinking? You're not thinking of Bunraku. You're thinking of Bacurau.
Bacurau, that's what I'm thinking.
With where he's part of a group of mercs that are trying to terrorize the town. Yeah. That movie's interesting.
It's something, all right. That's one of the.
It wasn't my cup of tea, I think. Although it would make for an interesting conversation piece for our topic today, though I'm not prepared to discuss it.
There you go. I am also not prepared to discuss it because I've only drank hundreds of beers since I last saw that movie in 2020. But speaking of movies, man, what's in the intervening weeks since we last had an episode have you seen, Mr. Davison, that you would like to bring up on this, program?
I have got three movies I absolutely want to recommend, and one that I want to make people aware of
That's
in
what
case they think it's
recommendation
their
was.
cup of tea. But at least to be aware of its existence. The first is a film called The Assassination Bureau. It's from 1969 by Basil Dearden. It's getting a physical release from Arrow Video on the 25th of April. It's Oliver Reed and Diana Rigg, Telly Savalas, and a slew of other people. Okay. The premise of the film is that there is an organization known as the Assassination Bureau that conducts assassinations. They can be hired to do such things. Diana Rigg plays a budding journalist. This is like 1908 England, London specifically. And she surmises that these assassinations are going on, but they went from sloppy to organized. And I think I know what's going on. And she decides to track them down, and she hires Oliver Reed's character to put out a contract on himself.
Okay.
The idea being that if he goes away, so will the organization. And he goes, you know what? Fuck it. I'll take this contract. I have the ability to do that. And he goes to his entire board and says, you guys have to kill me. I think we've gone soft. So if you can't kill me, then you deserve to be taken out. And we need to reevaluate what we're doing. It's fucking hilarious.
Okay.
It's Kingsman meets My Fair Lady is the best way to put it. And I never really understood all the comparisons people were making with the Pope's Exorcist and what's his name? Oh, why can't I think of his name all of a sudden? You're hanging me out to dry here. He was Gladiator. He was
You say you're hanging me out to dry like I knew what you were talking about.
Pope's
Gladiator?
Exorcist. What was
Come
that?
on, Russell Crowe?
Russell Crowe. People have been saying that the performance in the Pope's Exorcist is very Oliver Reed. That he's very in this Oliver Reed phase, playing these characters like Zeus in Thor: Love and Thunder, and some of these other things. But this movie is a whole lot of fun. It's clever. It's smart. And it deals with some interesting historical fiction. The restoration itself isn't the most beautiful thing I've seen. It's not like a 2K restoration, it's just high def, but it is a lot of fun. And again, that comes from Arrow Video. Another film that was a lot of fun is from 1975. It's an Italian film called The Sunday Woman. This is a movie that our murder mystery fans should want to check out. One, it was directed by Luigi Comenciti. Its score is Anicio Morricone.
All right. Ennio Morricone is my boy.
Yeah. It's got Jacqueline Bisset, it's Marcello Mastroianni, and a few other folks, where the premise is that a real shitbag of an individual, a pervert, who everybody in town knows gets murdered, and the two people that are the immediate suspects are these high-class people that are fucking bored and are like, oh, we didn't do it, but we'll help you solve the murder. And the cop is just like, God damn it, fucking rich assholes, fine. And that's the whole movie. And because it's Italian, this was originally made for TV film, but people are cursing and they're getting murdered by dick statues and like all kinds of stuff. It is really a lot of fun. And it's got a restoration release from Radiance Films, and it hits US shelves on the 18th of April. The reason why I point that out with US shelves is depending on where you get it, it's either going to be region B or region A. So if you decide to check it out, make sure that you look to see for which region it's rated. Now, the last film I'm going to recommend, it hit theaters officially on the 14th of April in the United States. It's Makoto Shinkai Suzumi. Don't know why I'm tripping up on Suzumi. I had wanted to talk about it with the last episode. I was not able to. This is officially my favorite animated film of this year. I believe it got released in 2022 in Japan, but it's slowly coming over to other areas. If you've seen Weathering with You, if you've seen Your Name, then you already know that it's going to involve some sort of nature meets mystical romance type of story, and it does follow that. But for me, Your Name was the peak of these three films. Weathering with You is fine. I have a problem with the end. Suzumi is fantastic start to finish. Okay. And Daryl's making a face at me, so I'm just going to let you guys know that a lot of Shinkai's movies, at least as of I think yesterday, were on sale on Amazon, and I picked up Weathering with You for about $15, Blu-ray DVD, so that I can rewatch the film to see if I still have the same problem. But with Suzumi, it's about a 17-year-old girl. She's orphaned and being raised by her aunt, and she's going to school one day, and this hot dude walks by, and he's like, "Hey, do you know where any ruins are?" And she's like, "Yeah, there's some up on the hill." And she keeps going. He's like, "Thanks," and he keeps going. But there's something about this dude and something about the question that has to be like, "Hey, I know where the ruins are. I know what's going on." And she takes off over to it and finds this door. And she opens the door and she sees this realm that she's only ever seen in her dreams, and where she remembers her dead mother being. And she wants to go find her mom. She wants to return to that place. And by messing with the door, she potentially is going to destroy all of Japan. It's treated with the same heart. It's treated with the same love. It's treated with the same beauty as the other films, but it's done in a very different way. And rather than hitting you heavily with symbolism or ideas, it's much softer and warmer, I felt. And it's truly wonderful. So if you get the chance to check it out, if you feel comfortable seeing it in theaters, I understand that there's some theaters doing Suzumi in IMAX. Do recommend checking it out. Again, this is right now my current number one animated film of this year. The last film I want to recommend, or I at least wanted to mention, is a film directed by Donnie Yen as well as by Kam Kawai. It's called Sakura. It is an adaptation of a serial novel from the 1960s. I believe the original title is like Demigods and Semi-Devils. It is a big, high concept melodrama with martial arts. It's a wushu film. The problem with this is where the action is fantastic. The story is structured in such a way where they rush to get you to Donnie Yen as the lead character so quickly that all this stuff that's about the relationships that come into conflict, we've got no basis in them. And then other stuff is referenced that makes no sense because it hasn't been explained. So I think it's one of those issues of an adaptation where they put in as much as they could, but they actually needed to take more time in order to do that, so anybody not familiar with the book would have a greater understanding. And the reason why I mention this is because it centers on Yen playing a character who is this leader of a major clan during the Song Dynasty in China, 1100 AD, and he gets accused of murdering one of the masters of their sect. And they go, "You're a traitor. Here's a letter. We have a witness." And he's like, "Wasn't me." Pulls a Shaggy. "It wasn't me." Except it wasn't him. And he goes off to find out. But meanwhile, everyone's like, "You know what? We believe this, so we're just going to murder you." Except there's a lot more windiness to it. And the fact that he doesn't really go, about some of these things. And the fact that everybody is just willing to go, we fought side by side with you, but fuck you. Because, this stuff. There's not a whole lot of investigation of that, and I think that's partially because we haven't had a chance to really explore these relationships. The action is great. It really is. It's got some great stunt work. I can't speak to if it's the best of the year because I haven't seen John Wick 4, but it's got some great stunts that you would expect. The action director has worked with Donnie Yen on films like Big Brother, Flashpoint, Raging Fire, and there was another one. They've worked on several projects together. So the action is tight and the action is impressive, but that's about the only thing I can recommend. So if you're into martial arts and you hear about this, with a grain of salt, but it may be up your alley. And those are the 4 films I wanted to talk about.
Well, there you go. There you go. I have one to talk about because time has not been on my side. I want to talk about a movie called
Time is not on your side.
Are you done, sir?
No. The only thing I remember about that movie with Denzel.
I'm talking about a movie called Rye Lane. Came out
that's
on
not
Hulu.
The name of it.
Oh, that's not.
Sorry, go ahead.
Rye Lane came at the end of March. Man, on here, directed by Rain Allen Miller. Man, it is a British rom-com, two 20-somethings that are both coming off of their own individual bad breakups. They connect by chance at an art gallery. They kind of spend the day learning about each other and just being there for each other, and an intense connection and bond forms. And of course, as you have to have in all of your rom-coms, there is the misunderstanding, the split, and then the come back together. So it follows the same formula you've seen in rom-coms since what, like 1986 or whenever Harry Met Sally came out. But it's just so fresh and inventive and funny in the way they handle their situations, the way they choose to shoot some scenes. I loved the shit out of Rye Lane. I went into it like, I really don't fuck with rom-coms. I think that's fairly known about me, is I couldn't care less. And from minute 5, I was like, oh, this is good. Like, this is some sharp writing. This is some good directing and some genuine laugh out loud parts all throughout this. And the acting is great from David Johnson and Vivian Opara. I loved all parts and all aspects of it. At 82 breezy ass minutes, it gets you in, it gets you out. One of my favorite movies of the year right now, that good old Rye Lane. Have you had a chance to investigate this movie, Doug Fresh?
You challenged me to watch it.
That's right, I sure did. And we will talk about it at the end of this episode.
I will discuss it when we get into our challenges. I will say, if I understand it, that it I forget if it premiered at Sundance or if it premiered at South by, but everybody was talking about it then. Mm-hmm. And then when it premiered on Hulu, everybody was talking about it, including you. And that's how I knew, okay, I think I need to make time for this.
Yeah, shout out to the Bite Size Breakdown guys. They were like, hey, you still got some reviews you owe us. And I was like, again, time is not on my side currently. And they're like, well, there's one movie left in the month of March, man. We got this Rye Lane over on Hulu, so you can go watch that shit and get it reviewed. And I was like, but I don't want to. And then I watched it, and I was like, I'm glad I did, though.
It's wild when that happens, right?
It's wild when that happens. It doesn't happen often, but it's wild when it happens. Most of the times I'm like, but I don't want it. And by the end of the movie, I was like, I hate being justified. Yeah, but this is one time I was very glad to be surprised at how it came out, man. I enjoyed the shit out of that movie. That's all I got. I saw other things as well. We are the brain that the powers that be at Paprika are working on the bracket for the back half of the year. Mm-hmm. And so watching a couple movies I had not watched for said unannounced bracket. I watched about 4 of them while I was working yesterday. So filling in some gaps. Anyone who looks at my letterbox might be able to figure out what I was watching and what these brackets are going to be. But that's information for later on down the road, man. Today, you got something else?
I did. The movie is Fallen. Gregory,
the Denzel Jones,
Gregory Hoblet.
Yeah,
the movie is creepy as fuck, and that's the one thing that I remember, is that's what the killer sings every time he hops from body to body.
Yes, it is. And who is the killer in that?
It starts off as Cotis, if I remember right, Elias Cotis, and then it jumps to some other people. It's been ages since I've seen it, but man, what a fucking cast! Ada Turturro, Cynthia Hayden, obviously Denzel, John Goodman, I forgot was in this, Donald Sutherland, Embeth Davids, James Gandolfini is in this. James popped up in a bunch of stuff that I would go, ooh, I like him. And then he became Tony Soprano, and it was like, ooh, James Gandolfini is in this. And then I watch something and go, oh, fuck, James Gandolfini is in this. Like,
me, that's the Mexican. When he pops up in the Mexican, I'm like, God, I love that movie so much. It's so ridiculous.
Haven't watched it in ages. Found it on sale on Blu-ray. Picked that shit up when it released within the calendar 12 months. But what was the other one? With Chili Palmer. Why can't Be Cool? No, Be Cool was the second one. Get Shorty. Get Shorty. He plays Bear. Gets tossed off of a thing. I'm sorry, did I ruin the movie for you?
No, Letterboxd giving the Mexican 2.8 stars. You're out of your mind, Letterboxd. That movie's fun as fuck and goofy and breezy, and I love it.
It is because of that movie that every time I watch something and anyone fires a gun into the air, I immediately get nervous.
You don't know where that bullet's coming down.
You don't fucking know.
Brad Pitt found out the hard way and fucked his whole day up. Yeah, good movie there. You can't watch Mexican do that today, man. Today we are talking. Today's an
Wait,
interesting.
wait, hold on. Before we do that. Okay, so you asked about movie things. I am going to try and share this in Paprika. One thing I'm going to tell you, and then I promise you'll be able to finish that sentence. You've already tried twice. I will let you finish it. Talk about movie shit. I watched a trailer today that I want to show to my son, my oldest, so badly for Superman the movie because they're releasing all 4 Christopher Reeve films in a package set. It was supposed to hit shelves on the 18th, at least in the US it was. I think it's released elsewhere. It's now coming out in May. But they re-edited the trailer for the original film, and it makes it look like this action-packed flick, and like Gene Hackman's just eating up the scenery. The Mexican made me think of this, by the
way. Yeah, they that might contribute to the 2.8 stars because the trailer for the Mexican and the release of the Mexican, two totally different things.
But I was like, ooh, this is a pretty good trailer. It might make Connor interested in watching the movie. He's going to be 8, and he might. The movie is so goddamn slow, I don't think he would enjoy it at all. Whereas
that's why you give him
I'd be like, this is great.
Give him Superman 2, man. That's got all the action in it. No, that's why I prefer 2 over 1 so much. When you get the Kneel Before His Eye. Anyways, we're not here to talk about that.
What are we here to talk about?
Fucks heavily Superman 2. That's the only Superman I fucks heavily with. That's not Man of Steel. We are here to talk about
never mind. I'm just kidding. That was the last one. Sorry.
Demanding movies was the topic that I thought would come up with. Movies that force you to watch and keep up and pay attention. Early on in my long tenure of writing reviews, I used to refer to these movies as what I call phones off movies. Like there's some movies, for instance, The Mexican, you can just kind of watch it, fit around on your phone, and still have a good time. There's some movies, I can't think of one off the top of my head, I call this a phones down movie. Like, hold on a second, there's some shit going on. I might need to, yeah. And then there's some movies it's like, no, phones off. So you can be all in on this shit to figure out what's going on. So some phones off movies that force you to watch and keep and pay attention. You like to have a grandstanding list of examples? Did you come up with some for this? And if so, what, sir, bless us, please?
If I understood the assignment correctly while doing my research, and a minute, I need to go back and rewatch this to see what I missed. Right? So it would be films like number that they're attached to, the different hidden meanings. Fight Club is a real easy specifically being the Jet Li, also Donnie and Maggie Cheung. Man, I haven't seen Rush Hour 2 or 3 in the longest time. My number one actor this year is either going to be Jackie Chan or Michelle Yeoh due to all the restorations and re-releases coming out this year. In fact, this week alone, I'm finally going to watch Police Story 2 because I have to watch Police Story 3
with both of them in it.
Can't be stopped. So, and then I've got a whole other thing over here. But anyway, so these are all films that when you watch them, you got to be paying attention because of the types of stories that they're telling. Hero, in particular, is a film about perception and storytelling.
Hero was just another, speaking about it off mic, I think we were. This is an updated Rashomon, in my opinion, there.
You know, I could totally see that, particularly because of the narrative device that they use of trying to get Nameless closer to the Emperor with each story. I really want to rewatch that movie, but there's so many movies I've either got to watch or watch for the first time. But those were some of the examples that I came up with, and hopefully that fell in line with what you were thinking. I
Yes.
think my movies do that, though they are of a very different vibe every time.
Yeah. Going back and looking at mine, it is definitely a watching the second time. Now that you kind of have an idea of what to look for, this is the things you need to keep out for and pay attention to. Like without thinking of anything off the top of the head, I'm sure there's some movies that if you're locked in the first time, you'll be like, oh shit, that's good. But these movies, man, it might take you more than one.
And I left off a few out of my long list because I wasn't sure which ones you might want to talk about yourself and which ones might be on my list as well.
You mentioned one of mine already, so I will go ahead and go first. Man, talking about a little joint, the movie that actually made me think of this whole idea called Coherence. More I think about coherence, the more I love coherence. You cannot buy coherence anywhere, and
Wait,
it
really?
upsets me greatly. Last time I checked, coherence Blu-ray, Amazon, roll the dice, and they come up, smack guys, no, $40. It's not a criteria. What the fuck do they think they're doing? But anyways, $39.99 at a quick check. If you have not watched Coherence, it did pop up on my 100 sci-fi list somewhere, if I remember correctly, in the 70s. It is about a night of an astronomical anomaly. There's a number of friends at a dinner party. They're experiencing events happening. Is the best way to put it. I feel like this is one of those. This movie in particular is one that I don't want to give out any spoilers for because I remember being quite overjoyed and watching and figuring it out and putting the puzzle pieces together. It makes for bad podcasting, but this is a movie I think it is best you go in completely blind on. All you need to know is that these friends are gathered, some wacky sci-fi shit's about to go down, and it plays out from there. It is 89 confusing ass minutes of trying to figure out who's who and who belongs where is the best way to put it at. You have seen this movie, Douglas.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I got super curious about it because of one of the actors in it. I forget what her name is now because it has been a while. It might have been Elizabeth Grayson, but she had originally been in Highlander, the
TV
live
show.
action TV show.
Mm-hmm.
And I was a big fan of hers in that. And sometimes if an actor has played, even if it's only one character that I've seen, but I have a tendency to sort of go, oh, I like this person. I want to see them in other things. It is Elizabeth Grayson. Apparently she's been in some other films that I have also seen and just didn't realize she was in them. But uh yeah, Nicholas Brendan is also in there. So anybody who watched any bit of Buffy immediately went, "Oh yeah, him too." But it's a simple premise.
That also
Yes.
ties into the movie, strangely enough.
What's that?
That ties into the movie, strange enough. That, what you just said, is the first clue that things are already popping off.
Hmm. I don't remember the movie well enough because I saw it came out in 2013. So I saw it on home video.
Mm-hmm. I've only seen it on
So
Amazon.
yeah, so it was either 2014 or 2015 by that point. Based on the quick research I did, and I sent it to you, it's available from Oscilloscope Labs. You can buy it on DVD or Blu-ray for considerable cost, but it is Oscilloscope Labs, so that would be why.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
I will be putting this in my cart later.
there you go.
Last thing
But
I'll say. Oh,
it is no, just to add to it is just simply it's been a minute since I've seen it, but I remember being thrown by the complexity of what it ends up being and the brilliance of the execution.
yeah. It starts out. You think it's going to be. It's great at early on and very quick character development. You find out who's with who, even though they're all friends. There's some that are maybe a little less chummy than others. There's a little bit of static, there's a little bit of friction. So you go in thinking they're going to eat this dinner. The drinks are going to start flowing. Someone's going to say the wrong things, and then shit's going to pop off from there. And yes, that does happen, but it is within the context of this larger umbrella. I came to this and two other sci fi movies that I dearly love. thanks to hashtag Saturday Night Sci-Fi on Twitter as a plug for those guys. Every Saturday at 9 p.m. Eastern Time, if you are interested, or whatever your adjoining time zone is that lines up with 9 p.m., they will pick the movie. I think usually Friday they announce what it's going to be, and then Saturday they all press play and tweet about it using that hashtag. So you can just scroll along and kind of follow the movie with these people also watching with that hashtag. That's how I came to Coherence. That's how I came to Arc, which I will defend till the death of it, and a movie called Time Lapse. All three were on my 100 Sci-Fi because they're great micro budgeted movies. Coherence was directed in the director's house. Like that's how small budget this is. Great movie.
Time lapse.
Time lapse is a camera that takes a picture 24 hours in the future.
Oh, and it's got what's her name from Flash and Sky High? Yes.
Yeah.
Danielle Panabaker. Yeah, I feel like maybe you challenged me to this. This one was pretty good.
I did challenge you to it. I rewatched it to figure out where it would land on the 100 sci-fi list last year and was thoroughly entertained by it yet again. What is your first pick, sir?
My first pick. I'll explain that little thing in a minute. My first pick, I'm going to go in chronological order rather than being like, So I'm going to go from most recent to furthest away, and even then it won't be that far. Do apologize for those that are looking for, deep chronological reach back to the beginning of cinema. This is a movie that's hung around in my brain for a number of different reasons, because every time I think about it, whether it comes up in conversation, somebody references it, something else, I find another reason to become profoundly uncomfortable. And that's Jordan Peele's Nope. I am shocked, particularly because so much of it got ruined for me before I could watch it. Get Out, I went to the sneak preview of that one. Luckily, Us, I stupidly was pre-booked and couldn't move it, so I couldn't cover Us any way, shape, or form. And with Nope, I'm just currently not going to the theater unless it's a press screening. Universal ruined the movie for me and anybody who hadn't yet watched it when they went, hey, it's coming out on home video. Here's Jean Jacket. Like, you fucking dicks. You fucking dicks.
No sympathy over here, sir. None.
When the movie is being sold, it's one thing. Hey, it's one thing when someone such as you or any other audience member goes and they wait like a couple of months, whatever it is. Maybe they wait a month, maybe they wait 2 weeks, whatever, and they're talking about it online. Okay, fine. When the person distributing it has sped up the release for home release so they can recoup some of that money that they feel they haven't gotten in the theaters, why are you ruining the movie for people? That's been advertised as a mystery.
None for me. None sympathy. It's one of those it's so, as we've kind of seen in which appears to be kind of the, I don't want to say shtick because that seems disrespectful. It seems to be
his voice and style,
his brand. There we go. It seems to be Peele's brand are movies that are dripped in symbolism and allegory and things having deeper meanings behind them. So yeah, Nope makes a whole lot of sense for this because I really just enjoyed going on this ride the first time I watched it, and I didn't watch it again. I knew this was going to be somewhere in my top 10. And I didn't watch it again until the very end of the year just to kind of lock down my top 10 and enjoyed it even more that second time, looking for the little clues and the foreshadowing, this kind of means this, and then it's great for one of those movies you can kind of hop on the internet after you watch and be like, oh, this person caught something that I didn't see, and oh, this could mean this. I thought this meant that, but they thought it meant that. It makes for a great discussion.
And every time you watch it, you'll notice something different. You have to put your phone down. You have to be paying attention to this film because from the very beginning, from the first conversation, there are clues about what's been going on and about what Steven Yeun's character, Ricky Jupe, has been doing this whole time. And it's all him. Rather, if the man had just gotten therapy instead of trying to mine his trauma to hold on to some form of relevance, popularity, fame, then all of these people would still be alive in Jean Jacket. Maybe he would have left our planet. But you know what? Fuck him. That's what he thought.
I did not realize that until my second viewing. The first time I was like, man, Steven Yeun's kind of a dick. And then it's not until the second time you're like, oh, I now fully realize the depths of his foolishness in this movie. And it gave me the Akira slide. So obviously that's an extra half star for me.
Thought about you immediately when I saw that. Yeah, that the only thing that really got ruined for me was what Jean Jacket is, but not the depth of the story. So I knew what was floating around. I just didn't know how it all connected. But in my watch and then digging through it for my home release review, I was like, holy shit, this has all been set up here, and then this is going on over here. And I imagine if I go back and rewatch it, instead of just going back to select scenes, if I rewatch the whole thing, I'll find even more and additional things.
Yeah.
So that's why I went with Nope.
My only knock, man, is that design of Jean Jacket. I think is absolutely terrible. I think it's cheap looking. It looks like paper mache. I think our man on the streets, Connor, could have made a better design.
Disagree.
For
Disagree.
Connor,
would have been horrible.
Connor?
Would have been horrible. I love my son. No, wouldn't have. I would encourage you if you have access to the home release, watch the bonus feature about the design on Jean Jacket. I think it'll change your mind.
I'll watch it with open eyes, an open mind.
I recommend it.
Right.
But don't look directly at it though.
No. I'll just try to watch off the mirror of the side of it. All right, my second movie, man, is a surprise to no one. Everyone knows this is my favorite director. I have not put my boy's movies in an episode of Cinnamon in quite some time, and it's time for him to make his return before he makes his glorious return to theaters. And that is my man, Chris the God Nolan in Inception. Man, Inception. I still fucking love this movie 13 years later.
That's because the top's still spinning.
The top is still spinning.
So you're still watching
it's just been Leo for 13 years, just like one of these days.
That's actually what Oppenheimer is.
It's just 3 hours of Leo and Cheekbones Murphy showing up to try to figure out what's going on with that top.
What's her face walks in, pushes it over. Mal.
Actually, no, it's Margot Robbie. Barbie, get out of here. I love
attacking the box office that week.
Everything about Inception appealed to my sensibilities.
Mm-hmm.
If you just look at the genres on Letterboxd, like science fiction, I fucks with it. Action, I fucks with it. Adventure, I double fucks with it. There's crime. It's a reverse heist in the very beginning. Or actually, no, in the end, it's a reverse heist. Like, very rarely do you see a heist story where they are breaking in to leave something, and then to take it to another dimension of breaking into someone's mind to plant a thought is such a wild concept to me. I was all on board. And then to add on these dazzling visuals, this slick stylishness that Nolan brings to it, and then populates this world with, for me, such very memorable characters. It's the first time I really paid attention to Tom Hardy. I thought Elliot Page is wonderful. It's one of the first times I was like, oh, I kind of give a fuck about Joseph Gordon-Levitt. And then Ken Watanabe just eating up the scenery all over the place. I love everything about this movie. The action scenes are wonderful. It plays like a video game. There are clear levels to this. He has said his inspiration was his favorite Bond movie on Her Majesty's Secret Service, which is one of my favorite Bond movies. And you can tell that in the Tom Hardy level when he's on the snowspeeder. It is excellent from beginning to end. But the math of it all, the concepts behind it all, you kind of need more than one watch to really understand what's going on in this movie. Whose head are we in? What level are we on? What's happening? You can't get it all in one watch. The first time I watched it, I was so wrapped up, I completely forgot they were on a plane. Like, you get the slow-mo, cuts back to the van about to hit the water every once in a while. I'm like, man, it's gonna be wild. That van hits the water, and then it hits, and they wake up on the plane, and I was like, fuck, I forgot about the plane. So yeah, there's a lot going on in this movie, and I love it to death.
I was thinking about that film recently because
I broke into your dreams and incepted into you.
No. Although maybe. No, I feel like someone was over at the house recently that I would have made this reference to, but maybe it was just Crystal. But one of the kids, I think, had done something, and I just turned and looked at them and went, "You've got to dream bigger, darling." That's all I could think of.
Yeah, that's
Boom.
a good trailer moment right there.
Oh,
I love every bit of this
Hardy
movie,
does
man.
give good trailer. He
He
does,
gives
but he gives
great
good
trailer.
everything.
He does.
He is
It's
he's
the
committed.
suits and the outfits. I'm just looking at the picture here on Letterboxd. The suits and the outfits, everything's just so well tailored, man.
It
It's
is.
and stylishly made.
But it speaks to what Nolan does top to bottom in terms of with that film, everything's got a specificity. Everything serves a purpose. From the look of the characters, it's how they see themselves, but also they're professionals, so they've got to look and act a certain way, and they've also got to be malleable to the environment that they're in. So how they look, how they move, how they speak, everything speaks to the larger concept of Inception and what it's looking at. It's fucking brilliant.
Fucking brilliant, man. Love that movie. Love it to death. What is? I think it came in like maybe number 10, my top sci-fi movies. What is your second movie, sir?
Second movie. My second movie will take us back to 2017, not too long ago with this one. This is a film that from the very first time I watched it, I'd heard about it, its reputation, and hearing that this film is one of the best releases to have come out of 2017 and everybody should be watching it and all this kind of stuff. I hear that about a lot of different movies, and sometimes they resonate with me and awesome, and sometimes they're like tar and I don't get it. So,
Hurts.
I hate when I don't see what everybody else sees. It bums me out. I'm happy for everybody else. This was not that. This is Shinichiro Uneda's One Cut of the Dead. This is a movie that you watch this, and kind of like I mentioned with Psycho changes from one type of movie to another type of movie as you keep going. One Cut of the Dead very much does that. And one of the things about this film is that it is a story of a zombie outbreak. And you watch the first 30 minutes, and it's that zombie outbreak. And then things shift.
Mm-hmm.
And so you think it's about one thing, and it ends up being about something else entirely. It's still very much a zombie film, but it's about more than just being a zombie film. And so when you
It's
start to
about being a
realize
zombie film.
that when you realize what is actually going on and you go back and watch it a second time, when you really pay attention, you start to see everything that they were doing. It is beautifully executed. It is fucking hilarious. It is honestly terrifying and uncomfortable, at least in those first 30 minutes, but also kind of like, wait a minute. And it all works. It all absolutely works, whether it's your first watch, your second, your third, your fourth. So if you have not yet checked this movie out, I know I've talked about it at least twice, if not three times, multiple anyway, on this show. Please, please, please do check it out. It's, I think, streaming on Shudder.
Yep.
At least it was for a period of time. I believe you can get a region-free edition through Third Window Films, which either through them directly or Terracotta Distribution. But if you dig a good zombie horror drama, I say just fucking buy it. Just go for it. Make sure it's either region free or region A, but you will not be disappointed.
Great Blind Buy still holds as my number one favorite challenge that you've given me so far.
Every now and then they're good.
Every now and then they're good. I get 10% good. Get 10% good. It's the one movie that I got maybe 25, 30 minutes in. I was here in my little office watching it, and then just stopped it and said, Leslie, we're watching this movie. I started back from the beginning. It's like, you have to watch the nonsense that is this movie. And we both loved it.
Good nonsense.
It's great nonsense. There's so much going on in that movie I find utterly hilarious. And yeah, that first 30 minutes does have some genuine fright to it. Love the fuck out of that movie, man. Good call. My final movie. It's come up on this show. We had a whole episode dedicated to it way back in the days.
One might say it's the best episode we've ever recorded.
One might say, because it was the best episode we ever recorded, directed by Shane Carruth. 2004. It's been so long. Primer, man, a movie that is damn near literally designed for multiple rewatches because you will not catch everything. I've seen Primer 4 times now, I think, somewhere around there. Last time I watched it for the sci-fi list to see where it would pop up, still was catching things I'd never caught before, or maybe I'd forgotten about because it had been a while. I love everything about the final product that is the movie. Don't love everything else associated with the movie, but I love the movie itself. It is pure science fiction to me. It is some of the best. If you're unfamiliar with what Primer is about two guys who work for the shitty little software company who are dreaming big of creating the new thing, tinkering around in the garage, and they accidentally invent a form of time travel. Whoopsie. And it is how they I love sci-fi that can be very realistic, and because this is low budget and it is very grounded, it gives you that, it lends that aura of realism, especially in how the characters use this technology. And before you know it, thanks to greed, ambition, jealousy, things go awry. All of a sudden, there are multiple versions of these guys running around doing different things. You see how this repeated use of time travel, what the side effects have become on them physiologically. It is incredibly well thought out. They put a lot of shit into a movie that is only 77 minutes. It is short, but when you get done with it, you think you have just watched a 115-minute long movie. They pack a lot in. It is riveting and fascinating, and you need that Always Sunny in Philadelphia meme of Charlie walking around trying to get the thoughts out. You need your corkboard, your red yarn, your push pins. There's a lot going on. There's actually a graph on Wikipedia that explains the flow of Primer, and having seen the movie multiple times, I still don't understand that graph. It's convoluted, but the convolutedness of it does not affect the quality of the movie, I would say.
There's a trick with that, and it doesn't work for every film. It requires the audience to want to be okay with the convoluted nature. Just because something is convoluted doesn't make it clever or good or even engaging. Just because something is complex or sounds intelligent doesn't make it actually intelligent. So you really walk a
razor's thin edge.
Yeah. When it comes to that kind of storytelling, because if something is so complicated and convoluted, people may just shut off and go, okay, I'm not even going to try. I'm not going to try and engage with this. I'm not going to try to watch it. So yeah, that Primer gets real close to that.
There's two movies, I will say, that walk that fine line perfectly. It's Primer and it is Memento. Both of those, a very murky timeline. But if you just kind of sit down and think about it a little bit, Memento's entertaining enough because the concept behind the convolutedness is so entertaining. You're kind of fully invested in, will this dude catch his wife's killer? But yeah, Primer, man, a lot of shit going down in that movie. You haven't watched it. And go back and listen to episode 10 of The Cinnamon, man. Go back and listen to that Primer episode. It is one of our better ones.
I mean,
we talked to Douglas 2 and Daryl 3. Yeah, it's great. What is your final pick there, sir?
My final pick is a 2006 film. Again, I said I was going to go backwards. I wasn't going to go too far. But when you brought this concept, this is that movie I would point to. It is the movie that, to this day, even though I haven't watched it in some time, I need to get it in 4K because it is a beautiful film anyway. And I imagine the 4K version, particularly from my DVD edition, would be very impressive. But it's another Christopher Nolan joint, and it's one that I thought of long before Inception. It's The Prestige. This is a film that, as we talked about with Inception, the details matter. The details matter not just from a storytelling standpoint, but in order to achieve the prestige, it has to do everything it says that it's going to do. And it has been pulling a magic trick since the fucking beginning. And if you're not paying attention, you're going to miss it. And you're also going to miss out on who's the hero, who's the villain, as these two escalate and battle each other.
Yep.
And you really do, the more information you get, particularly as you get to the end, that becomes clearer and clearer. It's not just about who loses whom in their respective careers trying to be the best magician, but it's about who's actually the best. Who does it matter if you kill yourself literally every night on stage? Do you have to go that far? Or can you just do it once to do the best trick possible and be so committed that, yes, you may destroy your life, but at least you'll have one, versus killing yourself over and over. It is complex. It is wonderful. And by the way, Rebecca Hall, who I couldn't have picked out of a crowd back in 06, still one of her great performances out of a career of very few bad performances. I think there are some that are good to great. None of them are bad.
None of them. Right? Even Iron Man 3 is like, all right, well, she's putting in some work.
Yeah. And certainly is more believable than some of the other villains. And I would have loved to have seen her be the actual fucking villain. That's a whole other conversation. So that is my film that if I had to pick my top favorite of this, it is certainly one of my favorites, but it was the first film that came to mind with this. It is a movie that anytime I start thinking about it, I go, oh shit, I should watch that. Like, it's just so good.
The balls to basically flat out tell the audience, we're going to do this to you.
Yeah.
And then they do it to you.
It's the hats.
And then you're like,
show you the hats.
Oh shit, they did it to me. It's so good. I rewatched it. I feel like at the beginning of COVID, I think I might have found like Blu-ray in like the $8 bin at Walmart. Like the first 4 or 5 months of COVID, I just groped the $5 bin at Walmart, and I came out with like some treasures. And I'm like, what? This is worth $5? Prestige is one of those. And I was like, man, it's a Nolan movie I revisit the least.
Interesting.
Outside of like following. We don't care about following. By the Criterion. But yeah, it's every time I go back, I'm like, damn, this is better than I remember it being. I think ScarJo just playing both sides. It's so good. It's so good. Shout out to David Bowie in this movie. I think it's the first time I remember seeing I realized that Andy Serkis is an actual human being and not some AI construct. I just saw him in the
cast list, and I was like, "Who the fuck is he in this movie?"
He's Bowie's assistant in that movie.
Really?
Yeah.
I need to.
Before you get to Tesla, you had to go through Andy Serkis's character.
I don't remember that. It has been a minute.
Yeah. Long before he was appearing on Andor. He was teasing Chris Nolan joints, man.
Apes Stronger Together, sir.
Apes Stronger Together.
That's right. Andor. Man, those movies had no business being as fucking good as they are.
What, the Apes movies?
Yes.
Damn, no business. Yeah. Interested to see if he comes back for this new Apes movie they just announced the other day. Yeah, that's our list, sir. You want to get into this here challenge business?
Yes, I would. And I'm going to go first because you've already started talking about it. Rye Lane is fucking great.
Yeah, it is.
It's like a warm fucking hug. And you made a comparison to When Harry Met Sally, and I'll say that it doesn't fit the mold in that vein, primarily because Crystal and I finally watched the Harley Quinn animated Valentine's Day episode, and that actually follows the When Harry Met Sally format, where you've got people on a couch and talking about how they met and whatever. This doesn't do that, but it is very rom-com-y without being a traditional rom-com. Mm-hmm. It's the fisheye lens was a little weird to me at times, but it also gave it sort of this young, observant sort of feel. It also made it feel very on the ground as opposed to separated.
Man,
Like you almost,
Yorgos Lanthimos and the Beastie Boys are like, the fisheye is ours. That's our shit. Get your own shit.
but it's still very much that. And the vibrancy of the neighborhood and the people that they're going to, there was nothing that felt gritty or grimy. It all of it was sort of wrapped in love, and these characters, their performances from the actors really conveyed that. Particularly, I think, even when the sad moments, your what's his name, David Johnson playing Dom, our male lead, his breakup story happens when he's at a movie, and so they use that movie motif a couple of times throughout the film, and might have him in the audience, but then surrounded by a whole bunch of hymns also watching the same thing, which would be is it Vivian Opera who plays Yaz? When we're watching her story, which looks like it's set on a stage, it's nothing but Doms in the audience. So there's a playfulness and an energy that runs throughout, so that even the sort of ordinary things in a rom-com feel new. It feels designed freshly. And yeah, it's maybe 77 minutes before the credits. None of it feels rushed. Everything feels organic. Even the stuff that is sort of obvious in a rom-com, in the way that there's always that one thing that sends them in different directions. What it is and the way that it gets addressed is so cute and adorable and very in line with everything that we've seen, rather than in a stereotypical way. And it makes it so much better.
Yep.
So much better.
Payoffs are there. The setups earlier, especially with her in the boat. I didn't expect to see that.
Oh, that's who you are. You're that person.
It's such a delight, a refreshing, delightful movie.
Yes, it was. And as a feature film, as a first time, directorial debut, it's a hell of a film to start off with. Does it get into anything too deeply in terms of concepts or social commentary? No, but it doesn't have to. But it's certainly the kind of film where I'd be like, okay, this is a film driven entirely by character. What other character-driven stories could you do? And I would kind of like to know how the hell Colin Firth got associated with this. I feel like there's a story there, and I would like to know, because I looked up and I was like, wait. Good on you for making the transition from rom-com lead to surprise character. But no.
Yeah, I enjoyed the fuck out of that movie, man. Enjoyed it a lot. You gave me Confess Fletch. I'm a huge Fletch fan of the first Chevy Chase flick. And this one was something completely different in tone and feel of Fletch. From what I hear, this is much closer to the books that I have not read. I'm only associated with the first Fletch movie. In this house, we don't talk about the second Fletch movie. It's John Hamm finally getting to do what John Hamm was supposed to do. The only person who realized this was Tina Fey. She has used him brilliantly. He's great in Mad Men, but she used John Hamm the way he was put on this earth to be used. And that's as a giant, ignorant goofball who just happens to look really good. That's what's going on in Confess Fletch.
I don't know how ignorant he is, though. Like, he's kind of useless, but I wouldn't say he's ignorant.
Kind of useless. I feel like he might play up the ignorance a bit to take some of the heat off of him as a person. If you were unfamiliar, it's kind of quietly dropped last year, Confess Fletch, directed by Greg Mottola, who, if I remember correctly, directed Superbad, which means Greg Mottola, for me, has a lifetime pass. He's always good, because Superbad is that shit. It's about Irwin and Fletcher, an investigative reporter who finds himself as a murder suspect. He's flying home from an overseas trip. He gets to his rented home, and in the basement of said rented home is a dead body. And then things kick off from there. We got Roy Wood Jr. as the lead detective on the case, trying to figure what's going on. Kyle MacLachlan is in here. Hair looks wonderful, by the way. Kyle
It does.
MacLachlan. And also, I mean, where you find John Hamm, you will always find a vestige of John Slattery in there as well. And I love what little bit he has in his
Oh
movie.
yeah.
The case and the mystery itself, I find, is a bit too much, a little bit overdone, overblown, and slightly convoluted, but it's all just a vehicle to let John Hamm cook and do his thing. And cook and do his thing, he does. I enjoyed his performance more than I enjoyed the actual movie itself. Uh, it's one of those movies that's it has to operate. It can only operate off of the somewhat ineffectiveness of the police. Like Roy Wood Jr. should have arrested that man long before he actually arrests that man. But at the same time, there's some sneaky stuff going on where they kind of talk about Fletch's white privilege and how he just kind of moves about in crowds and is able to operate with a freedom that Roy Wood Jr., a black man, doesn't have. It is addressed very directly at the very end of the movie when Roy Wood Jr.'s partner brings it up. But yeah, there's a couple little levels going on in this movie. I enjoyed it for the most part overall. If they made a second one, I would be here for it. I don't think they will, but I would be here for it.
It frustrated a lot of folks who saw it when I did, when I reviewed it. All of us were like, this movie is a goddamn delight. It is a comedy that if you promoted it properly and put it into theaters, it would do well. And it hit theaters, if I remember right. And Paramount was not promoting it.
Nope.
At all. And everybody that enjoyed it was like, that is in the critic circle, if you will, the sphere of it. We're all like, this is the movie everybody's been clamoring for, a low budget, low stakes comedy to just sort of breezy, have a good time.
Hollywood doesn't make those anymore.
And it's so frustrating because this thing's great. I loved it. I thought it was a great bit of fun. I would absolutely watch a sequel. Quick shout out to Aiden Mayeri, who played the partner.
Grizz.
She fucking steals every scene.
I love her in this.
She was so good. And that's part of what I enjoyed about it is there's a tiny ensemble feel that sneaks in, particularly with Roy Wood Jr.'s character and how he interacts with Fletch. I'm not familiar with that specific character, Inspector Monroe. Apparently, they changed him a little bit, not just with Roy Wood Jr. in the role, but also, I think, some of the backstory, what have you. I haven't read those stories, but apparently there's a whole book series around that inspector. So there's Fletch's son, and then the inspector.
Okay.
But I'm glad you gave it a chance. I'm glad it at least entertained you. And for a low budget film like this, that's all it had to do.
98 minutes, man. Get in, get out. It was the thing that I struggle with is if there's a second one. You talked about the ensemble aspect of it. Like I would kind of want Roy Wood Jr. and Ida Mayari to be back, but also you can't do that again. You got to put Fletch in a whole different city, whole different set of circumstances. You can't just have this man bum around the same city over and over. Get him out of
He's
Boston.
A reporter. He's going to go wherever he needs to go.
Exactly, which means you got to get him out of there and get him to a whole new cast. We'll put him back in Los Angeles. He's a Lakers guy. It was fun. I enjoyed it, man. There's a little bits of at the very beginning. There's a hint or two of we're gonna give you a quick Chevy Chase nod to that kind of physical comedy that Chevy Chase did. He goes to feed the fish, and then the whole cap comes off, and he just dumps the entire fish. That felt very Chevy Chase to me.
Gotcha.
But outside of that, it was its own thing, which I appreciated. They just didn't try to mimic or ape, because Chevy deviated wildly from the book. So,
oh yeah, I mean Fletch, the version of Fletch that you get in this movie, from what I remember, because it's been decades since I read the books, but I did read several of them because I loved the Chevy Chase thing, and I read the books, and it's different, But once you read the books and you watch the chase films, you go, oh, it's Chevy being Chevy as Fletch, not Chevy being Fletch. And what we get with Ham is Fletch.
Yeah, it's
And it
Chevy
works really,
using
really
Fletch
well.
as a vehicle to do his type of comedy.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
Ham is fantastic in this, and I would love to see him doing more of it.
There is a scene in there where Ham doesn't have a whole lot of lines, but it's all facial work. And I was dying. It's when everything starts to kind of come together and they're in the house, and then the guy comes in with the gun. Yeah, and there's one little quick scene. It's just all John Hamm reaction scenes, reaction shots, and I died. So go ahead and check it if you have Paramount. I do believe it might be on
Showtime.
Showtime.
I
There you
think
go.
yeah, you have to have a Showtime add-on. It's all dumb.
It's all dumb. But if you have it, man, go ahead and check out that Confess. Like I said, 98 minutes. It's worst ways to spend your time, man. It's a good, fun Sunday afternoon movie.
Damn right.
Damn right, which is when I watch it, man. You got anything else before we get on up out of here for this episode, sir?
No, just officially have it on record. Hope you and the wife have a lovely honeymoon.
Thank you very much, sir. We will be doing the book thing all throughout New York, so I'll be taking a little break away from film. Although this little trip will lead to some other possible film related stuff down the road. More on that as it happens. Yeah, I much appreciate it. We will have ourselves a fun time.
You better.
Should be fun for the whole family. I tried to sneak in a trip to the Lincoln Theater to see what they got playing. Nothing worthwhile.
That's the play, Mrs. Lincoln.
Yeah, besides that, how was the play, Mrs. Lincoln? It was one of my favorite jokes. We'll be back, man, in a couple of weeks, man.
Yeah.
Brand new episode for you, episode 85. Until then, man, you all take it easy. Have a good one out there and keep watching movies.
Keep watching them.